Milaya, what are you doing, Chica? Hey, Chica, Milaya, Milaya. Milaya. Shh. This is so clever because her dress matches the flowers. Milaya, I love you. Hey guys, my name is Christian Ostmo, and if you want to learn how to make your great relationship even better, go ahead and hit that subscribe button because that's what this channel is all about. What I want to talk to you about today is when to give it up. And what I mean by that is when to give up certain... Yes, Malaya, I know. What I mean by that is when to give up certain aspects of you or your life for love. Now, most of you guys know I've moved across the world for my wife. And now I have the most beautiful family in the world. The first stage of any relationship starts long before the relationship does, and that is self-discovery. Now, with self-discovery, it's all about finding yourself. I mean, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's all about finding yourself, but not just finding yourself. It's all about living for you, figuring out what you want, what you need, and that sort of thing. Because you know what you want and what you need out of a relationship, you can find or ask the person questions about what they want and need. And so another stage of the relationship is all about discovering who the other person is, what they can give to your relationship, what they want out of a relationship. And if those two kind of align, then you can move on to the next stage, but only when those things align. So when they align, and you will find somebody where they do, you create a vision and a future together. So at a certain point before this happens, you kind of come up with a plan together. And that's where, I mean, it can get complicated and you might have to give certain things up. You have to determine what is your vision, your personal vision. This is before you're married or committed to each other, right? You have to figure out what is your vision and your what you want out of a relationship, because that's the most important thing before you start the relationship, is that you know what that's going to look like. All right. And so once you figure out what your grand vision is, what your big idea, what you want out of a relationship, you can take it to the next level and you can say, okay, in my future, this is what I want. And you can sacrifice the things that don't align with your vision. In my case, I flew halfway across the world to be with my wife, and that's because my life in America was not part of my grand vision. I wasn't living exactly the way that I had anticipated that my life would look. And so I saw myself as a traveler. I saw myself as a I saw myself as kind of this entrepreneur, and at the time as a web developer living in Oregon, my life could easily had continued in that direction, but that wasn't really what I wanted. And so the grander vision was something else, something a bit more vague. I wanted a beautiful family, and I wanted to continue traveling, and I wanted to be an entrepreneur with multiple businesses. And so that was what Deborah and I discussed. That was what we decided was our vision together. And so the reason that I was able to give up my vision, not my vision, the reason I was able to give up my life for my wife, for my love, was because the old life, what I gave up, was not part of my grander vision. I was able to compromise it because it wasn't as important, okay? Now, I don't think that you should compromise something big, something that is part of your grand vision in life, for especially the beginning stages of a relationship. What you end up with is, if you change yourself and then you go down the line and you think, oh, this person changed me, or this person, or I've lost who I am. Now, people do change over time, naturally, but they have to change on their own. They can't change at the will of another person, because then you get resentment and all this sorts of stuff. So now you might be wondering, well, I'm already committed, or I'm already married, and I'm not sure if our visions align. It's okay to make compromises. Deborah and I have made lots of compromises. That's just how life is. but neither of us ever compromised our kind of grand vision. That's really the big thing. And so she and I, we will change over time, but we are committed for life, and we will continue to change together. That's kind of the ultimate goal here, is that we're adapting and growing to each other. If I had told Deborah something like, my vision is to get a tech job in San Francisco, buy a nice house, find a wife to settle down with, then our relationship probably would have ended at that stage. That's a point where, you know, okay, there's attraction, but then you think, actually, there's no really common vision. There's no common vision. There's no compromise. Our grand scheme of things, our grand visions are fundamentally different. And so that's when you know that the relationship eventually isn't going to work out. Maybe one of us could have changed, maybe not, I don't know. But the thing is that we would have ended up, one of us resenting the other one. We would have ended up not accomplishing the things that we set out to, and we would have ended up being different people. And eventually, you know, I might resent her, she might resent me. Oftentimes you'll see people skip this kind of stage in the development of a relationship. They don't really discuss their grand their grand scheme, their grand vision. And so what happens is you have people who adapt to their partners because they love them, you know, but they adapt too much. And then they think, oh, I've lost who I was. And that's exactly what you want to avoid. You don't want to think, I've lost who I was. You want to be the person in the relationship that you were at the beginning of the relationship. And that's exactly why I fell in love with Deborah, because she didn't compromise. She didn't change anything about her to make me like her. She just was who she was all the time. And I mean, that's how we should all be. And then, you know, the right person's going to come along. They're going to be attracted to that, or they're not. And if they're not, then they're not the right person. But if they are, then they are the right person, and you continue. So if you're there thinking about, you know, your partner or your future partner, ask yourself, you know, what do I want out of life? What does my partner want out of life? How do those match up? Or and what am I willing to compromise in order to have the person that I want to be with? How am I willing to compromise? And this is before you make like a commitment. How am I willing to compromise to make this person's vision a reality? And how are they willing to compromise to make mine a reality? I mean, that, at the end of the day, that's really what it comes down to. Is there's going to be a certain amount of compromise. Is that compromise going to be too much? You have to decide that before. Ask yourself, is that compromise going to be too much for you? But not just you. Are you going to force your partner to compromise too much also? That's an equally important question. Put it back up. Thing. How's that, Malaya? Is that good? She seems to be reacting to putting this thing down. She doesn't like it. I think she feels limited. Boom.
Aww. You picked up on that.
Yeah. That's better.